I have been incredibly, incredibly lucky, but it wasn't easy. I'd like to start my story about 6 years ago. In early 2012 was when I started contemplating and then later planning my suicide. I felt completely alone. I didn't really understand the feelings that I was feeling, and I was confused. And this all had to do with my own internal struggles with my sexuality. I was the picture of the American dream. I had a good job, I was happy, was surrounded by friends. But every day I would wake up and feel so alone, like there was nobody who had those same feelings that I did. I knew I wasn't gay because at the same time, I was attracted to men, but I was also attracted to women. And at that time, I had never heard the word bisexual. I grew up in a very small town, much like Yarram actually, in the middle of Kentucky. And words like bisexual weren't ever thrown around, weren't used. I was lucky enough to go to a sex-positive therapist. And I can remember sitting in her chair and her saying, "Okay, close your eyes and picture your perfect male and your perfect female. Now, which do you choose?" And I said, "Why can't I choose both?" She smiled and said, "Nobody said you can't." And I was lucky. It was really tough to want to come out to your friends and your family and to feel like no one else understood you. When we look at the lesbian, gay, bisexual community, 52% of those identify as bisexual. And while 70% of the lesbian and gay community are out to their close friends, families, colleagues, only 28% of the bisexuals feel comfortable coming out. When asked if they would date someone who is bisexual, only 30% of men will say yes, and 19% of women. And these numbers come from the Human Rights Campaign in the US and the CDC. The bisexual community is 6 times more likely to attempt self-harm or contemplate suicide. And so why are these numbers so dour? Why is this such a problem? And perhaps it's because of the myths that we all live with. These myths that the bisexual community cannot be monogamous. That if you're in a relationship, you're more likely to cheat. That you're more likely to carry an STI. Or that you'll just be heterosexual or homosexual, depending on the gender of the partner that you're currently with. There's no data for any of these myths that prove them correct, and yet we all still sort of believe them. I've had partners, males and females, who would say, "I'm not comfortable dating you because of your sexuality. Why can't you pick one? You're just in the closet. This is just a transition." And that feeling of loneliness is part of that problem. I've been to the parties of friends where I'm talking to a community of gay men, and as soon as they find out that I'm in a heterosexual relationship, they all take that step back just to further themselves away from me. And that actual same night of that party, I was at the train station in Sydney, and a group of young, I'm going to assume heterosexual men, said a word to me, which I'm going to redact. But it was a slur that I think we've all heard. And in that moment, I thought, wow, in a single night, I've been excluded from multiple groups. But still, I've been lucky. Because I've been given a platform in which to talk about my sexuality and how I'm okay with it. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. It's about my journey. But if I can help others along the way, that's the important thing. So the question is, what can we do? What can you do? I always like to quote Disney, because I'm a bit of a Disney nut. And in Beauty and the Beast, near the end of the movie, the mob sings, "We don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us." And that's so true. And many of the speakers today, have pointed out that knowledge and understanding, that's what it takes. And listening and having space. When somebody needs to talk to you, be it about their sexuality or anything else, give them the space. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, my grandmother used to say. Because we're supposed to listen twice as often as we speak. So when somebody needs a space to talk about themselves, give them that chance. Believe them when they say, "I think I might be bisexual." Don't treat them with derision. Don't treat them with confusion. Don't ask all kinds of questions that they're not ready to answer. But give them that space to be themselves. Have patience and listen. And if you yourself are confused, give yourself that same patience to listen. I often talk to people, and we talk about when you've been thinking about something for a long time, and you've been planning it out, and you mention it to someone else, that this is the first time that they've heard it. So when they hear it, you have to give them the time to digest it. The same thing goes the other way. When you hear something from somebody, it might be a surprise, but give yourself that time to digest it. I've been so lucky. I came out to my parents, to my friends, to my wife, and it's been great. It's been hard, but it's been good. So when somebody comes to you, give them the space, believe them, celebrate with them, use inclusive languages, not gay marriage, same-sex marriage. Don't judge books by their covers. We all do it. I'm guilty of it as well. It's a matter of practice what you preach, I reckon. But think about like your general happiness. 21% of heterosexual identifying people consider their lives overall happy. Unfortunately, it's only 8% for the homosexual and gay and lesbian community, the homosexual community, and 5% for the bisexual community. So, in closing, I think the most important advice that I can give you, and the one thing that I would ask of you, is that I want you to be heroes. We can all be heroes. Someone told me that being able to stand up here and say, "I'm bisexual," and to tell others that they're not alone if that's the way they feel, that's heroic. I don't feel like a hero, and we've heard that already on this stage once, but I encourage you to be a hero, because one thing that you can do to make yourself a hero is to be available and to listen. And above all else, I want you to be the reason that at some point down the line, somebody can say, "I've been lucky." And everyone in this room has that ability, whether you believe it or not. Thank you.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.